You've clicked onto this video because you are wanting to hit your driver further, but no matter how hard or fast you make those swings, there is no actual gains. And it just actually leaves you further offline in those bunkers or trees. Well, what if I was to prove that the easiest way to hit driver further isn't all about making those faster and longer golf swings, but it's all to do with two simple things that you can change the way you attack the golf ball in the downswing that's going to allow you to hit more consistent, but way further drives. And I'm talking as much as 40 yards more distance. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can do just this in minutes. But before I do, for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Harry, Golf Teach Professional, here to help you transform your golf game. So consider subscribing to the channel if you take these tips and drills on board in your own game, as there's lots more content coming your way every single Tuesday and Friday, 6 p.m. GMT. So what you've got to understand with driver is that the way we attack the golf ball determines not just the direction of the golf shots, whether they go to the right, left, or straight down the middle, but it also determines how far the golf ball travels. So a good example is, for those of you at the moment who are struggling with that slice at the moment, you're probably getting a little bit over the top and encouraging the shoulders to happen a little bit earlier, and then we begin to attack the ball on this downward motion. Then if we have the tendency of swinging a little bit too much this way and underplaying, we're going to probably hit the ground first maybe, or if we just time it and hit ever so slightly more upwards than usual, we're going to be attacking the ball from a complete different points. And this is all due to two different things. Obviously, the strike location is going to have a massive impact on how far the golf ball travels. If we're not hitting them out the center or favoring a little bit more on the high toe side with driver, it's not going to go as far as we want it to. But also, if we're attacking the golf ball on the wrong angle, and this is the one that people forget, if we're attacking the golf ball on the wrong angle, just like these 2 points here where we see a little bit too high onto the driver or too low onto the driver, then we're not going to hit those perfect drives. Ideally, with the driver, when we're making contact with that golf ball, we want it to be out the middle of the club face, of course, but also hitting the golf ball on a point just ever so slightly on the upward motion, so the bottom end of the golf ball, favouring that bottom end just like this here, so rather than directly in the middle. And the reason is we want to get that upward motion to get that launch higher and hit the ball higher as well as longer, so it carries a much further distance. So when you're making those faster golf swings and trying to speed things up and making those bigger back swings, it's only going to make things worse for you if you're attacking the golf ball in the wrong way. So we've got to change the way we attack this golf ball. And the most common one we usually see is either that over the top move, or we get a little bit too stuck underneath and wrap the hands over. So we're attacking the ball from two different points rather than consistently out the middle. And in order to do this, we want to be able to get that club swinging back straight down at the golf ball, as opposed to it coming this way or too much this way. So if I was just to set up to the golf ball now and aiming straight down my target here on this golf hole, and I set up with my shoulders, okay, a little bit too open, so a little bit too far to the right like this here. What do you think I'm going to do when I take that club back? I'm going to take it more on the outside. So when I bring it back down to the golf ball, I'm attacking it from this angle here, almost more on this downward motion, this out to in swing path. So we're going to be attacking the ball a little bit too high on the golf ball. If we get those shoulders, and also a lot of golfers do this, where they get this tilting motion here and force this lead shoulder of ours to get ahead of the right shoulder to stop those slices. And what's going to happen here? We're going to swing too far under and then attack the ball too much this way. So the first thing we're going to be looking at changing is just the shoulder position. The shoulder position is dead simple. I want you to take the club out in front of you, and just rather than allowing your shoulders to be too far this way or too far this way, let's level them off. Let's level them off so that they are parallel in relation to the ground. And when we grip the club, this lead shoulder is going to be ever so slightly higher, just due to the ball position. If the ball position is in the middle of the stance, you can see my shoulders are very, very lateral, parallel with the ground. Whereas if we just get the ball position a little bit further this way, I've not changed my shoulder position. It doesn't feel like I have anyway, but my shoulders are now a little bit more on this angle here, this angle that we want to get that upward motion to hit the golf ball from ever so slightly on that bottom side as opposed to the top side. So shoulder position, a couple of ways you can do this is just taking the club just like this here, and rather than having the butt end of the club facing too far left or facing too far right, just have it parallel to your feet, aiming directly down your target line. I don't want to see any feet like this either, or like this, because that's going to have a massive effect and influence the shoulders to go in that same direction. Then we get that two-way miss here with the actual swing and the way we attack the golf ball. So everything needs to be nice and square. Feet, knees, hips, shoulders, just the way we address the golf ball with the ball position further forward in the stance in line with the left heel. For more information on ball position, you can have a look later on. I'll pop a video up later on for you to have a look at with this. But ideally it wants to be on the left heel or just on the inside of the left heel for right-handed golfers. And that just sets the shoulders on this point here. So shoulder position has an influence on the way the club travels into the golf ball, so that swing path. However, if you're a golfer that did have, for example, the shoulders being quite open and swinging a little bit out to win, what happens if our club face itself is pointing too far to the right? Well, obviously it's going to cause those slice shots, because the difference between the swing being out to win and the club face being open is going to cause that curvature to the right, of course. But if we then square up those shoulders, well, that's going to make the club face still open and it's going to go further right. So how can we control what this club face does? Again, obviously, if we get this way and we close the club face down, then that's going to go too far to the left, of course. So we've got to try and find a way that we can also control what this club face does. So for those of you, I'll give the example first of having the shoulders a little bit too far open to begin with. And if you're that type of golfer, we want to find a way that we can look into closing this club face down. So when I move my shoulders from this point here, being fairly open at setup, and I move them this way, you can see what that does to the club face, of course. It causes that to open now. So what do we want to do? We want to use our forearms to roll them over. You can see when I roll my forearms over, it feels like I'm pushing my arms further away from me, extending my arms. You can see there, that's closing down the club face. That's allowing this toe end of the club to close down a little bit more. So if we're so used to making those out to win swings, and now we've got things a little bit squarer for you, let's just ensure that at setup, when we make our swing, we're trying to feel those forearms rotating over. So on the way through, it's going to feel like that club face itself is going to point to the wall behind you. When you practice this on the range, the net behind you. And for those of you hookers of the golf ball, you've been setting up to the golf ball like this. So when we move the shoulders back to parallel, you can see that club face now closes down a little bit in relation to where our path's going to move. It's not now too far inside, it's fairly straight, but the straight path, because we're so used to doing this, of course, is going to keep the face closed. So how do we do this? We're going to try and feel like that club end, we're going to let that heel end of the club just get a little bit more ahead. So what have I done here? I have simply just allowed my arms to twist the other way. So I'm rolling my forearms the opposite way to square things up. Just a quick shout out to GX Golf. They provide high quality golf clubs for a fraction of the price in comparison to the rest on the market. Using my discount code below Harry10, you can get yourself a great 10% discount. I'd highly recommend you check them out and see what you think for yourself. And an easier way to feel this, because through impact, it's quite difficult to feel, obviously, those forearms rolling that opposite way because they should naturally release over. What I would like you to do instead is just almost allow that club face to continue pointing at the target for longer. And you can see from this camera angle here, if we zoom in onto that driver head, that's definitely pointing more towards the sky, isn't it? Well, that's set my forearms to twist a little bit this way rather than having to think about doing it. All we're just thinking about is just ensuring that that club face pointing a little bit more towards the sky as opposed to allowing them to roll over. So for slice of the golf ball, you're probably suffering with attacking the golf ball more on the high part to the right hand side of the golf ball. For those hookers, you're probably suffering with attacking the ball from the other side, too low and to the left hand side of the golf ball. And to change this slice of the golf ball, you're set up like this, the way you attack the golf ball. So we're going to get those shoulders moving a little bit more neutral, And then we're going to roll those forearms over, press those forearms over to get that toe overtaking the heel on the way through. This is the feeling on the way through. And when I do this here, the club face is pointing at the wall behind me. Hookers of the golf ball, we were too far this way with the face closing down. So what we're going to do is get those shoulders leveled off and then just ensure that we're trying to square up the face at impact, and we're allowing those forearms to roll a little bit the opposite way to do this. But a simpler feel again is getting that club face to point towards the target for a little bit longer on the way through, and that allows you to get those forearms moving in the correct motion to suit your new golf swing. So once you've attacked the ball in the correct motion, you've got used to those two things, applying it into your golf swing, you can then start to add more speed to this. So I'd highly recommend checking out this video over here. If you want to have a look at the ball position video that I mentioned earlier, I'd highly recommend checking the one here below. So the shoulders, making sure they're square, squaring up the club face, attacking the ball straight back, straight through. Let's see how far we can hit this one. That was, would you class that as straight or a baby draw? Either way, lovely drive to finish. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as there's lots more content coming your way as I mentioned at the start of the video. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.